there's a major election update in Wisconsin that you're not going to want to miss. Trump is trolling the media as it pertains to a third term, and the Trump tariffs go into effect April 2nd. Let's start with Trump trolling the media. Take a look.
You said you were not joking about a third term, about possibly wanting a third term. Does that mean you're not planning to leave office on January 20th?
I'm not looking at that, but I'll tell you, I have had more people ask me to have a third term, which is, in a way, it's a fourth term, because the other election, the 2020 election was totally rigged. So it's sort of a fourth term in a certain way. I just don't want the credit for the second, because Biden was so bad. He did such a bad job. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm popular, if you want to know the truth. I think I'm popular because we've done a great job. I think we've had the best almost 100 days of any president. And most people are saying that. And it's an honor. I don't want to talk about a third term now, because no matter how you look at it, we got a long time to go. We have a long time. You know, we have almost 4 years to go. And that's a long time. But despite that, so many people are saying, you've got to run again. They love the job we're doing. Most importantly, they love the job we're doing.
So the redheaded libertarian on X put this up. She makes a very good point for clarification purposes. The 22nd Amendment makes President Trump constitutionally ineligible to run for a third term. And the 12th Amendment makes him constitutionally ineligible to run as vice president. That said, there is no constitutional provision that says Speaker of the House must be an elected member of Congress. And there's no constitutional provision that says a two-term president cannot become Speaker of the House. This would place him third in the order of succession. So, guys, no matter what, he is trolling the media and picking and choosing what they react to. That's what's happening here. And I think it's entertaining to a certain extent, and I'll show you why. Here is what one Democrat congressman had to say.
Lastly, sir, I want to get your reaction to Donald Trump saying that he's not joking about pursuing a third term in office, which the 22nd Amendment, as you know, currently forbids. What would it take for that to happen?
You know, he has shown that he doesn't really care about the Constitution, so we better take his threat of a third term really seriously. We, as Democrats and Republicans, ought to come together, hold him to the Constitution, and make sure this doesn't happen. But again, I would take him at his word.
And Congressman, when it comes to some of your Republican colleagues who have introduced, at least one of them has introduced a bill that would seek to rewrite the 22nd Amendment, what's your message to them?
My message to them is we're a different branch of government. Stop kowtowing to the president, and actually let's uphold the Constitution and do what's right.
Yeah, so he's taking it seriously. He thinks it's actually going to happen. I'm of the opinion that it's never going to happen because, can I remind everybody, there is 3 branches of government. We do live in a republic. Can someone please remind the Democratic Party of that? Because the way they speak, I mean, it sounds as if none of that is actually true. So again, I believe this is him trolling and trying to dominate the news cycle and dictate what we actually talk about. Now, Sunny Holston doesn't care because she hates him so much that she can't help but react to this.
I actually think that he is so enamored of Putin and so enamored with power that he wouldn't mind being king, you know, with the crooked crown. I don't know that it's something that can ever be accomplished because we know that FDR historically had 4 terms. And so they ratified the 22nd Amendment in 1951, making sure that a president could only run 2 terms, consecutively or non-consecutively. So in order to really legally do this, he would probably have to change the 22nd Amendment, and that would you would need like 34 states, 3/4 states to ratify that. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. Right. That doesn't mean he's not going to try.
Yeah, so to be expected, of course. That's how Democrats see President Trump, and that's why their base has become violent and radical. Because if Democrats don't do anything about the idea that he's trying to be a king and run for a third term, they're going to lose it. So let's go to the White House press secretary and what she had to say this morning on this issue.
You guys continue to ask the president this question about a third term, and then he answers honestly and candidly with a smile, and then everybody here melts down about his answer. The president was talked about this last night on the plane. He said, it's not really something we're thinking about. He has 4 years. There's a lot of work to do. We've done a lot in these nearly first 100 days, and the American people love what this president is doing, particularly when it comes to efforts to secure the border.
All right, so I think her answer is pretty straightforward and what we should really be focusing on, which are the accomplishments of the administration. But hey, It's not just those reporters, it's now networks who are really diving deep into this conversation and are coming up with theories on how this is going to be able to happen, because they're only in the business of pushing fear at this point in propaganda to scare the base and motivate them to stop President Trump. Now, here's ABC doing just that.
At the end of the day, this doesn't really hinge on what the Constitution says. It's more on, if the Republican Party decides to put him on the ballot on a state by state basis, who's going to stop that process? There's no mechanism. If Donald Trump is willing to push the boundaries of the Constitution, if the Republican Party doesn't come in and stop him, I think this is this is feasible. This could actually happen.
Yeah, so of course they're entertaining ways that he could do it because they really believe he will do it, so they can program their base to be scared that he's going to do it. Which brings us to what I want to show you here is how the media is reacting to it and what the outlets are actually saying. Now, this is ground news, as you guys know. You can check it out for yourself by going to ground.news/Devori. We love this tool. It shows you both sides of what the political spectrum is saying about these stories. And in this scenario, let me show you what the left is saying. CBS News. Trump says he's looking for ways to serve a third term as president. He never said he was looking for ways. He said that there may be methods, but hey, they're not going to obviously report on that, are they? Now, here's an outlet that leans right from the Epoch Times. Trump says he is not joking about running for a third presidential term. But the fact of the matter is this: because he never ruled it out, people just automatically assume he's seeking to run for a third term. And of course, they're making the mistake by taking the bait, because that's what the left loves to do, is freak out about everything that Trump says or does. Now, one of the most powerful features of ground news is something they call blind spot. This is where you get to see stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, because ultimately you got to do your own research in today's times. Mainstream media continues to lie to you. I will get things wrong from time to time, and I want you to be able to think for yourself. And this is why I love ground news, and you will too. So subscribe through my link at ground.news/Devori, or download the mobile app and use offer code Devori for 40% off the Vantage plan, which will give you unlimited access to everything that we just covered in this video. Yeah, so as long as they're distracted with this narrative, they're not focused on what's actually important, which brings us to our next story, is the Trump tariffs. Liberation Day goes into effect April 2nd. We're talking reciprocal tariffs and the revenue that it could generate for our country. Now, here's just a snapshot of what that revenue would look like. Take a look.
The administration estimates the Trump tariffs will bring in $600 billion in the first year to the Treasury General Fund. The president's extra 25% tariffs on autos alone expected to generate $100 billion on top of the reciprocal tariffs. So those tariffs on just about all countries is meant to level the trade playing field. The extra 25% tariffs on autos and others meant to protect 7 industries the president has deemed critical. You see those industries there, autos on the list, along with semiconductors, labor, steel, aluminum, and the others.
So the one thing that I wish that everybody would understand about these tariffs, and especially what I wish Democrats in the media would acknowledge, is that since Bill Clinton, all the manufacturing jobs went overseas. Everybody knows that. And our country depends on China's manufacturing. So let me just get this straight. We don't support communism. We think China is the enemy, but we're allowing China to be the main driver behind our economy. How does that make sense, people? And the only way that gets addressed by allowing American manufacturing companies here to have a chance to compete. You can't do that if you don't use tariffs. That's just the bottom line to it.
Well, I think, first of all, unfortunately, these countries have been ripping off our country for far too long. And they've made, I think, their disdain for the American worker quite clear. If you look at the unfair trade practices that we have, 50% from the European Union on American dairy. You have a 700% tariff from Japan on American rice. You have a 100% tariff from India on American agricultural products. You have nearly a 300% tariff from Canada on American butter and American cheese. This makes it virtually impossible for American products to be imported into these markets, and it has put a lot of Americans out of business and out of work over the past several decades. So it's time for reciprocity, and it's time for a president to take historic change to do what's right for the American people, and that's going to take place on Wednesday.
Okay, so if you don't understand exactly what's going to happen on Wednesday, April 2nd, let's see if I can make it simple for you, okay? It's called Liberation Day, which was coined by President Trump, which means there will be 20% or more when it comes to the tariff amount placed on at least 25 different countries. This is also known as Reciprocal Tariff Week, okay? And this is going to impact 1.5 plus trillion worth of imports by the end of April. Now, this is on top of the current tariffs that have already gone into effect, which were the 25% on all steel and aluminum, 25% on most Canadian goods, 10% on energy, 25% on all Mexican goods, and 20% on Chinese goods. The 25% auto tariffs and 25% on countries purchasing Venezuela oil will go live this week as well. Now, as you guys can tell, I'm on the Kobisi Letter X profile, so I don't know if you guys follow them or not. I think he finds easy ways to explain what's happening with S&P 500 and stock market, etc. Now, of course, CNBC, because they talk a lot about business, they think they're going to bring on a senator who's going to actually criticize these tariffs. He ends up doing the opposite.
Will be beneficial to your constituents?
I'm optimistic that it will be because, look, this is, Joe, you talk about Cincinnati. I was down in Cincinnati with a manufacturer the other day who was saying to me, look, I love the idea that we're going to hold countries accountable who are not complying with the same OSHA regulations, wage regulations, EPA regulations, and that we're going to level the playing field. And they felt that the tariffs could help them do that in terms of manufacturing and people who are trying to undermine them by going around the same kind of regulatory standards that we have here in America.
Yeah, so if you are a manufacturer, you understand what's going on here. You support tariffs because you know competitors who are overseas are doing what you're doing at fraction of the cost. So you want to be able to compete. The problem is politically, nobody likes this because there is uncertainty. There is some level of pain in the very beginning because people don't know what's going to happen because it doesn't normally happen. And he also notes that the average U.S. tariff rate is already up to 8%. This is the highest since 1970. And by the end of April, it'll be higher than 1946. Now, if you have your investor hat on, this is an amazing time for you because you know if the stock market declines anymore, that's an opportunity for you to buy low, right? Because we know the stock market will go up eventually again. Now, here's what Kevin O'Leary had to say about these reciprocal tariffs and the hysteria in the media.
I understand the hysteria. I understand the gnashing of teeth. I understand the uncomfort. And everybody's focusing on this because we're watching sausage being made. We have never imposed tariffs on every country all at the same time. Never been done. Now, you may not like that. That's Trump's style. A lot of people don't like his style. But I don't focus on the noise. I focus on the signal. The signal is we're going to work this out as fast as we can, and we're just negotiating. Now, if you really think that the administration can't wait for hyperinflation, and they want to do this intentionally, that's not economic. That's not a sound mind, and they are not dumb. This will get worked out. But I'm just trying to bring some caution into this narrative, saying this is how you negotiate. When I negotiate to buy a plant, I don't go tell them what a great plant it is. I find all kinds of faults with it to tell them why they got to cut the price in half. And then I settle on whatever I can get, maybe a 20% discount. That's exactly what's happening here.
But remember, ladies and gentlemen, because it's President Trump, the media will not give him an inch on this, even if it's successful. Because how do we know that to be true? Look at egg prices. Remember, they were losing their mind over how high egg prices were continuing to rise. Then it plummeted and you didn't hear anything else. No, hey, great job. Hey, look at what he accomplished. It's been silent, okay? It's the same thing with these tariffs. They're going to lose their mind over it. And then when it works, you won't hear from them. But we will be talking about it. And regardless of what happens, we will talk about it. Now, here's an executive from the spirits industry, people who do wine and liquor, and what he thinks about these tariffs.
I think long term, again, if what the president's trying to do is a readjustment of 60 years of bad policy. You know, the pencil heads in our top schools and the elite in the top, in the government as well said, okay, we're going to turn America into the great, whore of the world that can send all of our products here. We can't send it out. And we have, if you leave the big cities and you go to Main Street USA, a lot of them are gutted out. And we think we're doing something smart by making an extra gross point of profit, by shipping the production abroad, by not paying a tariff here. But we are destroying our bases at home. And now we need to go through a little short-term gain for long-term benefit.
Again, people, short-term pain for long-term gain. I think that's what he meant to say or was trying to make a point of. And it's very true. This is something that's well overdue. Every single president has promised to truly make a huge impact as it pertains to manufacturing jobs in America. They've all tried, really hasn't made huge success. I think this is the only thing that might just do it, but we'll see how it shakes out. Now, let's go to our next story, and that is a major election update in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court seat. But also, there is something on the ballot that really fundamentally divides conservatives and progressives, or people on the left or right. And that is what President Trump put up this morning. Wisconsin, there's a very important referendum, question 1, on the April 1st ballot to amend the state constitution to require voter ID. This and other election integrity measures, including banning drop boxes and same-day voting with paper ballots, can only happen if you get out and vote. For state Supreme Court, make sure to vote for America First patriot Brad Schimmel against Susan Crawford, a radical left liberal with a history of letting child molesters and rapists off easy. We did a video showing you that in her own words on why she did that. She claims it's because she's following the law. She will be one of the most liberal judges ever elected, which would be a disaster for Wisconsin and the United States of America. So important. So please get out and vote yes on question 1 and vote for Brad Schimmel to the Supreme Court tomorrow, April 1st. Make America great again. Now, to hear the opposing view, here is Maria Cardova on CNN and what she thinks this election is going to tell us about voters and how they truly feel about President Trump.
Voters are sick of Donald Trump and MAGA and Musk's overreach. They're sick of being betrayed by what the president promised in the elections, which is bringing down and reducing the cost of groceries, gas, and rent. They are sick of the economic turmoil and the tariff taxes that Trump is trying to impose on them. And we're going to see that voter backlash. We have already seen it in the last special elections. Democrats have won 12 out of the last 13 special elections, flipping Republican seats that Donald Trump won by double digits. I think we're going to see a lot of that tomorrow.
Well, according to Maria, the numbers are on her side when it comes to what she predicts will happen. But the fact of the matter is, if we look at history, it is true that Republicans have struggled to bring people out to vote in these special elections or even in midterms. They usually come out for the national election, which we just experienced. So we'll see what happens, but I will say this. It won't be a referendum on President Trump, regardless of what happens tomorrow, because, as I stated before, we should have been talking about this months ago. And I'll take responsibility for that because, honestly, it wasn't on my radar. Now, here's what Scott Jennings had to say.
To Maria's point about people being sick of Donald Trump, I just point out in the CBS poll yesterday, he has a 50% approval rating, which is higher than the portion of the vote he got in the November election. So I don't think people are really sick of it. I do think a couple of things are true. Number one, the Republican Party is grappling with a new reality. We have a lot of voters in the party that do not vote regularly. They're low propensity voters. They turned out for Donald Trump. They like to vote when he's on the ballot. But even in the November election, you saw people show up, vote Trump, and then leave the rest of it blank. One of the things the party has to do is condition those people to show up even when Donald Trump is not the person they're voting for. Number two, I think the Elon Musk point that you played earlier about the future of Western civilization, I actually think this is a key issue the Republicans ought to lean in on because it's not just a one-off election when you're voting in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race or some congressional special election in Florida. These things matter. There are ripple effects. A vote here causes major implications on policy down the line. So I think Elon is actually onto something with that messaging. And I hope Republicans, especially the new ones who aren't regular voters, take it to heart.
This is Scott Presser actually putting this up. Here's the most recent polling for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. 50.8% Crawford, 49.2% Schimmel. So it's statistically a tie, and really that means we have a legitimate chance to win. But, of course, it comes down to turnout. In case you didn't see the video yesterday or the day before that or any of my posts on X, if you or anybody you know lives there, get them to go out and vote. So in the spirit of trolling mainstream media, answer this question in the comment section below. Would you support a third term for President Trump? We know constitutionally it's never going to happen, but let's just have a little fun, right? Because I know they're taking it so seriously. And even if it didn't happen, would you vote for J.D. Vance in 2028? And also let me know what your reaction is to the stories we discussed in this video today by putting them in the comment section below. There was breaking news last night where Elon Musk uncovered a Social Security scam that's been operated by the Democrats. They've allowed illegal aliens to come into this country, claim asylum, and then get issued Social Security numbers where they have received tax returns, health care, and benefits, and even voting. Now, if you missed out on that and the details of that bombshell story, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.